Okay, so today's lesson is about receiving from government programs. So, yesterday you read the info sheet and you learned how we are better off in a community than by ourselves, and that we oftentimes find ourselves needing to receive help from family or friends and sometimes nonprofit organizations. But today we're going to look at some different government programs that exist. We're going to look at seven, as a matter of fact, and we're going to look at what those programs offer and where the money comes from that supports those programs. So let's get started. First of all, accidents and unplanned events can happen to anyone at any time. And I've talked about that before. That's why I always emphasize the importance of having an emergency savings plan and an emergency savings account, and also having insurance, because those things protect us when these unplanned events happen. But sometimes those are not enough. And so we also have to rely on family, friends, nonprofits, or government agencies. So we are currently living, again, this is a perfect example, in a real life event that is impacting not just people here in Marion, but all over the world. I mean, think about that for a second. This is an event that is affecting the whole world. There are people in India that are sitting in their house and they're trying to avoid getting the virus just like we are right here in Marion, and they're being impacted and their families are being impacted very much like our families are. So, sorry, my dog is wanting to play and he's driving me crazy. So we've learned about sources for help. We've already looked at family and friends and nonprofits, but we're going to be looking about government sources. So think about, as you reflect on what you learned yesterday, about ways that family and friends and nonprofits in your community have been providing support, maybe for you, maybe for people that you know, during this event that we're all facing. So the seven programs that we're going to look at are listed here, and you are going to be reading about those in the info sheet. You're going to be watching some videos, and you'll have a chance to ask me some questions if some of them are not clear. One important thing to point out is that most government programs are meant to be temporary. So it's not intended for people to permanently be on government programs. Really, they're intended to help you get back on your feet, help you out during this difficult time. They're not perfect. So even though the idea is that most people are going to earn more money if they go back to work than relying on government benefits, lots of times we see that that's not the case, that the system is broken and people kind of get stuck on government assistance. And so the system obviously has some problems that need to be worked out. But when it was created, the intention was that the benefits would expire at a certain time. So they would be temporary, and it's a safety net to help folks get back on their feet. Okay. So where does the money come from? You guessed it, taxes. So when we went over our taxes unit, you guys learned about all the different types of taxes that we pay here. Of course, this is not all of them, but these were the ones that we've looked at, and how that tax money goes towards things that we all benefit by being a part of the community of the United States and of North Carolina and of McDowell County. So there are three different types of programs. There's federal programs. So these are created through acts of Congress, and this is where our federal tax dollars are going to. So federal programs are going to be the same in every state. So if it's a federal program, doesn't matter which states you live in, those programs are going to be the same. Now, state programs, they get their money, yes, from state taxes, and they also get some of that federal tax money that comes to them in the form of a grant. And if it's a state program, the state itself gets to determine how that money is going to be distributed. So those may be different as you go from state to state. And then, of course, there's some unique programs to local areas. They collect local taxes, and then they decide what they're going to spend that money on. Over here are some examples of things that you might see some of that local tax money going to support that are beneficial to members of our community. So, like I said, we're going to look at seven different government programs. So, as we go through these, think about as you learn about the program, could that program help someone during this COVID-19 event? Could someone be currently benefiting from that program with what's going on? So, the first one is Social Security. Now, there's 17 different programs for people. that they could use during different parts of their lifespan. But basically, there's 3 different groups of people that are benefiting from Social Security. So you've already heard about this one because when we talked about where your about your taxes that are in your paycheck, we talked about payroll taxes. And so remember, part of payroll taxes are going towards Social Security, and that's for retirement, is the main thing that we talked about then. So people that are 65 or older, this is a source of income because they're no longer working. Remember, we talked about how while you're a working person, you're contributing to the program. And then when you become retirement age, you have the opportunity to draw Social Security, and it's based on how much you contributed to the program through your working years. But there's also folks that are disabled that can draw Social Security. So adults and children who've become disabled, they can receive money from Social Security. And also survivors. If you're a family and you've lost a wage earner, or you're a child and your parent has died prematurely, and you're finding yourself, without that wage earner, without that parent in the family, then those folks can receive some help, assistance through Social Security. The next program is called SNAP. Now, in the past, it was called food stamps, but they changed the name, and SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. And basically, folks that receive SNAP, they just get an EBT card, like a debit card, and they use it to purchase nutritious food. So there is a limit. You can only use that money to buy food. And that money does come from the federal government. And people that are considered low-income families are the ones who are eligible to receive that. The next program you're going to read about is called TANF, and that stands for Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. So notice it does say families here, so there needs to be children in the home in order to qualify. This is federally funded, but it's administered at the state level. And what's unique about this one is, yes, it does provide money, but it also provides job training. So to help folks that find themselves, not being able to make ends meet, they will help people get job training so that they could get a better job. So again, they can become self-sufficient. Next, we have unemployment. This is something we're hearing a lot about now. People who have become unemployed because of COVID-19 had to go online, and they were able to file for unemployment. So businesses, if you have employees, the business owners pay unemployment insurance. So that's where that money comes from. It comes from employers. And if you have lost your job through no fault of your own, so like what's going on now with the virus, businesses had to shut down. So people who have lost their jobs, it wasn't because of anything they did that was wrong. They didn't get fired, but they just aren't able to go to work. And so those folks can file for unemployment. Now, this is income while you're seeking new work. So you can't permanently draw unemployment. You do have to show that you're looking for another job, or there is a limit to how long you can receive that benefit. And the next one is Medicaid versus Medicare. You're going to read about those and the differences, who is eligible for Medicaid and who is Medicared for. So both of these are providing health insurance. The difference is who the money is, or who the health care is for. So this is how I remember it. We give aid to those folks who are low-income individuals and their families, and we care for the elderly. So that's how you can remember those 2 different programs and who qualifies, who is able to receive money from those. And the last one is called Earned Income Tax Credit. So lots of things are affected by your tax return. So if you've been hearing on the news, the government during COVID-19 is sending out ways that people can qualify for some grants and some loans if you're a small business. And so the way that you receive that money is it's based on your taxes that you filed the previous year. And so if you received a refund, that's how you get the money. It's sent to your direct deposit, just like you had on your tax return. So an earned income tax credit is when you go to file your tax return, there's a section on the return where you fill out a little form and do a little worksheet to see if you qualify for this. And you're not going to qualify unless you're a low to moderate income family. And if you do qualify, it means that you get a bigger return on your taxes. So you can read more about that in the info sheet. So just to summarize, events can happen to anyone at any time. You can't plan for it. You can't know when it's going to happen. It's just a matter of being prepared through things like insurance and having an emergency savings account, and also knowing about these government programs and knowing what you can access and how you go about that. Most programs are designed to be temporary. So it's just meant to help you get back on your feet, not meant to be permanently relying on. We're all encouraged to be self-sufficient and be taking care of ourselves, but those programs do exist to help us out if the need should arise. Okay, so you guys are going to read the info sheet and do the activity for today, which is asking yourself some questions after you read the info sheet to see if you feel like you are getting it, summarizing these 7 different government programs.